Hi everybody, welcome back to From the Peanut Gallery. It's another video that you get to see my face. Isn't this exciting? So I'm here, I have my laptop opened up to Goodreads. We're gonna do our Q2 2022 wrap up. Wouldn't it be 2022 Q2 wrap up? Probably, but here we are. Of course, I am here with my tea. It's not hot tea, it is iced tea today because it's a summer month and also it's 4:30 p.m. If it was like later in the evening, I probably would have hot tea. I did have, because I didn't have my morning tea, I did have a hot tea at like noon, so you know. Wow, how many books did I read this quarter? We don't know. So the first book was a pho love story. It's by Leigh, and I gave it 2 stars. I believe I gave it 2 stars because I felt old. It's about two, I believe they're two Vietnamese like high schooler, one's a girl, one's a guy. They have pho restaurants across the street from each other. Their families are like enemies. They're like in a competition, obviously, because they're running like essentially the same restaurant across the street from each other, but then there's also some like actual family history and background, whatever. So these children grew up just always being told or hearing that like the other families are the bad guy, blah 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 blah. And so yeah, they've always seen each other in school but never really talk, never really hang out, never really, you know, do any of that stuff. They happen to talk one day, the story ensues, whatever. It was a cute little like story from what I remember of it, but I personally felt old because it was in a high school setting, and some of the things I was just like, I don't feel these things anymore. Like I can't sympathize. This isn't me. So sometimes when I read stories, specifically romances with like high schoolers or younger, I'm like, I don't understand the logic anymore. So yes, it got 2 stars from me. Then I listened to, it was called The Light of Days, The Untold Story of Women Resistance Fighters in Hitler's Ghettos. And that is by Judy Battalion. I gave this a 3. I'm not sure. I feel like I don't rate audiobooks. Like I feel like some audiobooks I would rate higher if I physically read them versus listening to them, because I'm still trying to like audiobooks. I like them, but I don't. So I'm not sure if this would have been a 4-star or if it would have remained a 3-star if I had physically read it. But it is about basically these women who obviously during World War II. So yeah, it basically just talks about the women, the Jewish women in Poland, and just how they were a part of trying to, you know, fight back, and what they did to, you know, kind of help other Jewish individuals. Talked about all the things that they did. It was interesting because when you hear about World War II and you read books from that time period or like watch movies, it's always about, you know, the war and the fighting, or I feel like more on like the male perspective. And so it was very cool to see and read about what women did during that time, and how they chose to fight back, and what their role in it was, and how they, you know, were able to survive, or how they held the family together, and just the various things of that nature. So it was interesting. I think I would have liked it more if I read it, but I don't know for sure. But I did like it. I did try to get my mom to read it. I don't know if she's read it or not yet. I got them. Oh, I don't know if I told you guys this yet. I don't know why I thought about it, but I was like, I should sign my parents up for like library cards. Like I should show them how Libby works, and this way, because we got my mom an iPad for Christmas and she loves the shit out of that thing. And then we got my dad a Chromebook laptop. So I was like, it's one of the ones that you can like fold in half. And I was like, yeah, they would both be able to use their devices to read from. And then they could do it on their phone if they know how to and or want to, which thank God I have a Kindle. I did not like the phone version, but it does come in handy when I'm out and about. But yeah, so I don't know what happened or when or why I decided to do it. I think it was sometime in like March, April. And I was like, Mom, like I can like, let me show you this and da da da. I think it was also partially because I was like, you guys need to read and use your brains a little bit more instead of just like vegging out in front of the TV and watching your shows and like YouTube and whatever, which is great. Don't get me wrong. I do the same thing sometimes, but sometimes I like to use my brain more. I was very excited. I signed them up. I figured it out. I downloaded the app for them. I showed them how to work it. I was like, you can do audiobooks, you could do like ebooks. And I was able to sign them up with one of their like Vegas branch or whatever for Las Vegas, because Orange County is a little bit more complicated and I didn't have time to do that one for them. But yeah, showed them how to do it, whatever. And so the book I used was this book, the one about the Jewish Polish women. And I was like, here, Mom, read about this. You like history and it's about women. Let's go. Like, here you go. I don't know if she read it or not. She somehow read and got some other book. And I was like, I had a book on there for you. But yeah, I was very excited. I was so excited for them to get a library card and to be able to start reading books, and they were like, okay, thank you. Like, I was like, I'm 10 times more excited than you guys are. Y'all, I read this book. It's called Love Lettering by Clayborn, which I feel like she's a fairly popular author. Like the name sounds very familiar. I gave this book 5 stars. I loved this book. It was a romance, which we all know I'm a fan of romance. But I think part of the reason why I love this book so much is A, I liked the writing of it. B, it didn't seem, I mean, every romance has a little bit of like far-fetchedness where you're like, yeah, that's not reality. But it wasn't like a ton of it, you know? It was like, it seemed fairly real. Well, I guess it was a little bit, but I don't know. I think it was maybe the writing and the fact that it like was kind of planner, like lettering type stationery world that I love was another reason why I really liked it. So it's about this, the main character's name is Meg Mackworth. She ends up, you know, you come into the story where she's already at this point in her life. She's famous. She's known as the planner of Park Slope because she can design custom journals and stuff for New York City's elite. So invitations and programs and things like that. So she had done one for a woman, and the fiance had come in with the woman, and she happened to like accidentally / purposefully leave like this secret, she like a secret message in it, which most people probably wouldn't have noticed, but for whatever reason the fiance noticed it and saw it. So they happen to run into each other, or he finds her again, and then, you know, the whole story ensues from there. But I don't know what about it specifically. I really did like the writing of it. I really liked the story of it overall. And then also the fact that it was like planner related. I was like, duh, planner, let's go. So yes, that got 5 stars. And then I read Fake It Till You Bake It, which was, I don't have the physical copy anymore. I gave it to Shane's mom so she could read it. It's another romance, and it's about was he a football player? And then she was on a reality TV series. Yes. And they kind of, their paths are kind of crossed and they're forced to work together and love ensues. I gave it a 3. There were some parts that I was just like, this needs to be a little bit more thought out, or it was just too much. When I told that to Shane's mom, she's like, isn't that why we read the romances? And I'm like, yes, sometimes it is why, but sometimes I want it to be a little bit more realistic than it is. So yeah, I gave it a 3. It wasn't bad. It's by Jamie Wesley. I then read People I Want to Punch in the Throat, Competitive Crafters, Drop-Off Despots, and Other Suburban Scourges. And this is by Jen Mann. I believe she's like a blogger, and I think she has a couple other books too. I actually listened to this book via audio, obviously, via like Overdrive Libby. And I was turned on to this book because it was for book club, for TPC book club. So yes, I did give it 4 stars. I thought it was funny because some of the people she wants to punch in the throat, I would love to do the same. But I couldn't fully relate to it because she also talks about like mom duties and things, and I am neither wed nor mom, so, couldn't relate to all the things, but I could relate to some. Oh God. Okay, so then I read A Love-Hate Thing, and I gave it 2 stars. This is by Whitney Grandison. Again, it was high schoolers, so I was like, no thank you. Yeah, it's a typical romance, typical high school. It talks about a kid who comes from a kind of ghetto, rundown neighborhood and living environment. He's had a traumatic experience, and his mother has passed away. He then went to go live with his grandfather. His grandfather got sick, ended up passing away, so some semi-distant family friends took him in. They were able to, they live in like a nice affluent neighborhood. Their children go to nice schools, and their daughter and him used to like hang out on the weekends when his grandfather used to go like garden that neighborhood and stuff. So they used to hang out when they were like 5 or 6 or something like that. So yeah, they have that like past history connection, and then now they're like 17, 18 years old, blah, 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 blah. I think I remember this book at one point. So the girl in the book is like already dating some dude at the beginning, and she's like, oh my God, I can't tell him that my parents are letting this guy live with us and they're taking him in and blah, blah, blah. My boyfriend would be so mad. Like, I can't tell him no, oh my gosh, no. And I was like, what is this 17-year-old boy gonna do? And why is he gonna be mad? Because your parents are helping a boy who needs a place to stay out? Like, I don't understand the drama behind this. Like, this seems just a bit absurd. Like, no. Negative, ma'am. So yeah, I had some issues with that. Okay, moving on. We read Shadow and Bone, which is the first book in the Shadow and Bone trilogy, which I think it might also go by a different name. And this is by Leigh Burdugo, and I gave it 5 stars. It's a fantasy, and I don't think I think it depends on the fantasy, but I'm not like the biggest like fantasy or sci-fi person. But I did really like this book, and I don't know, I think it was just fun to get lost in like a world, you know, like to get lost in something that like is so different and just like out of what you're normally used to, right? Because some of the romances and things, you're like, okay, yeah, I can picture some of that in everyday life, blah, blah, blah. But like when you do fantasy, you like literally like there's world building and you like get lost in the actual story and in the world that it's in. So I think I just really enjoyed the escape of that. And I think it's just a really fascinating story. I still have one more in the trilogy to read. And then when I was looking things up, I saw that like another series that this author has made is like part of the same world. So I might have to add those if they're not already to my list. I believe oh yes, I did listen. I listened to Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ning. I don't know how to say that name. NG is the last name. That's how you spell it. I know everybody's really liked this book. Like I've seen a couple YouTubers and stuff really enjoy this book. I gave it 3 stars. Again, I don't know if it's because I listened to it versus read it, but I also just felt like it was, I don't know. It's about a girl who like her body's found in a lake and her family's trying to figure out what happened. Nobody knows what happened. Was it the police can't find any evidence of why or how her body got there? So the family's trying to figure out like what happened, right? Like how did she end up there? Did somebody, like, was it a murder? The police thinks it's suicide because they can't find any evidence. So then the family's like, what do you mean it's suicide? Like, we can't see her doing that. She was so happy. Like, what do you mean? And so you get a little bit of everybody's perspective, which was kind of cool because I do like when books do that, when you're able to get like different characters' perspectives and views and whatever. But yeah, I don't know, for some reason I just wasn't that like into it. And I think it was just like, okay, cool. I don't know. I feel like, I think sometimes when like the characters frustrate me, like I think some of the actions and the things that the characters do frustrate me, and then it makes me not like the book because I'm like, why would you, like, who? No, like that doesn't make any, no, don't do that, like don't, no. So maybe that's why I didn't like it, but it's a very popular book. A lot of people really liked it. And oh god, talking about books we did not like, I don't know how this book ended up on my TBR list. With Teeth by Kristen Arnett. I gave it 1 star. Mostly and probably because I did not like the main character of this book. Like at all. She just irritated me, and I feel like she really needed help, and I don't know if she ever really got it or what happened. I did listen to this book I don't think I would have liked it any better if I was reading it. I was not a fan, but I will read you the synopsis so that you can make your own decision if you want to add this to your list. It's a moving story of two mothers, one difficult son, and the limitations of marriage, parenthood, and love. If she's being honest, Sammy Lucas is scared of her son. Working from home in the close quarters of their Florida house, she lives with one wary eye peeled on Samson, a sullen, unknowable boy who resists her every attempt to bond with him. Uncertain in her own feelings about motherhood, she tries her best, driving, cleaning, cooking, prodding him to finish projects for school, while growing increasingly resentful of Monica, her confident but absent wife. As Samson grows from feral toddler to surly teen, Sammy's life begins to deteriorate into a mess of unruly behavior, and her struggle to create a picture-perfect queer family unravels. When her son hostility finally spills over into physical aggression, Sammy must confront her role in the mess and the possibility that it will never be clean again. Blending the warmth and wit of Arnett's breakout hit, Mostly Dead Things, with a candid take on queer family dynamics, With Teeth is a thought-provoking portrait of the delicate fabric of family and the many ways it can be torn apart. Ma'am, no. I don't know. The main character, I think, was a bit kooky. And it was hard to be sympathetic towards her. So yes, moving on. Down the Rabbit Hole, Curious Adventures and Cautionary Tales of a Former Playboy Bunny by Holly Madison. This was another TPC book club book, okay? I probably would have never picked up this book if it wasn't for TPC, so thank you for that. I gave it 4 stars because fascinating, truly fascinating. Holly Madison, for those of you who don't know, like me, because I didn't know, she was, I guess she was a Playboy bunny. She was one of Hugh Hefner's girlfriends for probably almost 10 years, if not 10 years. And she also was one of the main, like, when they did the Girls Next Door show, she was one of the girls that was on there. So yes, I think I vaguely recall seeing ads for it and commercials and things for the show way back in the day, but I was also too young for that world. So yeah, I was curious to hear about her experience. And then I did an audiobook, so she narrates it herself. As I was listening to her tell her story, I was like, I need more. I need more information. I need more, what do you mean? I don't understand the life choices you made and how you got to this position. We just decided that dating somebody who could be your grandfather was a good idea, which look, I get that age doesn't have to matter, but we all know how he is, right? It was no secret. Look, from what I listened to from her book, and of course, as I was reading the book, I was like, okay, well, now I need to just watch the show. So I found a streaming service. I think it was one of the free streaming services you can get with your TV these days. that had them. So I'm still, I think I'm like in the second to last season, but the last season with her and the originals in it. And so I was like, I need more information, because I know you're telling me your story, but like, what's the show gonna tell me that you're not telling me? And granted, I know that it's like edited to make it look a certain way, but I can still see some things that you're not telling me. So from what I've gathered from both sources, Holly Madison fell in love with Hugh Hefner. She wanted to get married. She wanted to have his babies. Like, he was her guy. And I was like, ma'am, you walked into this relationship knowing that he dated multiple women, like multiple women at one time. And you thought that you would just magically be the one for him to just be like, you know what? I like you the best, and these other women do not do nothing for me. Like, please. Please. It was so weird, because at least when you're watching the show, Bridget seems like she's like, look, I'm just here. I'm just here, and I'm gonna take whatever I can get from this. Like, I'm sweet, I'm nice, but I'm also trying to build my career from here. And granted, she did mention in her book, like, that was kind of the way that they portrayed it, in a sense that, like, Bridget was the one trying to, like, make a career and do her broadcast journalism type thing, which is fine. But, like, she seems like she's more just like, I'm just here just to be here, and, like, I'm, you know, like most girls, I'm using Hugh Hefner to get where I need to be in life. Kendra is definitely there because she was probably in a interesting situation, and this got her into a better place, and was just trying to live the high life for as long as she could. But Holly was like, he's my, what does she call him? My puffin. Bitch, please. Bitch, please. We don't, there ain't no puffin here. No, thank you. No. So yeah, when she kind of would talk about how, like, manipulative he was, I was like, yeah, ma'am, what was your first sign that he was maybe not the man for you? And to have spent so many years with him, and like, the years that you were supposed to be like in the prime of your life, according to what everyone says. I don't know, it's fascinating. I have stopped, like, I slowed down on watching it a little bit, just because I think I've just been busy and I haven't really been like home to watch it. And then when I have been home to watch it, because there's been such a break, I'm not as like driven to watch it. But also, every time I watch it, I'm like, I should only watch like 2 episodes, because I'm killing my brain cells, and I need my brain cells. So yeah, that was a thing. It got 4 stars because I was intrigued. And then I read The Demon in the Wood. It was literally like 1 chapter. It was like what are they called? Novellas for fantasy? I don't know. By Leigh Burdugo. It was just like a prequel-ish thing to the Bone and Shadow series. So just kind of giving you a little bit more context and background. I gave it 3 stars. I was like, okay, great. Guys, this next book. So I went into this book being like, this is the bonus TPC book club book. I just like to read all the books that we read in it, regardless if I can attend the book club meeting, and regardless of if I actually want to read the book, because it helps, you know, get me out of my little box that I have. So I gave this book a 5-star, but I did not think I was gonna like it because the way it was described to me was that it's a paranormal romance. And I was like, what? And it was described as a paranormal romance with werewolves, vampires, ghosts, and I don't know if they mentioned like having a soulless person or not. I loved it. I loved it so much, and I don't know if it's because I had low expectations going into the book and then it surpassed those expectations, or if I just actually loved it. Actually, I think it's just because I actually loved it. So it's called Soulless. This is a series. The series is called Parasol Proctorate. This is the first book of the series. It's by Gail Carriger. So they are apparently werewolves, vampires, ghosts that live in this world. And the main character is what they call soulless. She doesn't have a soul. And because of that, she's able to neutralize the vampires and the werewolves. And then she can, what was the word that they use? Like exorcise? No. I don't know what the word is that they use, but basically she can get rid of the ghost. It was interesting because it's a little, like, yes, it's a romance in the first book, kind of, but it's also a little bit of like a mystery too. So I really liked it, and I think a big reason why I liked it is because I loved the main character so much. She was so fantastic. And I don't know if anybody has read or used to read the Amelia Peabody series. I read a handful of them, but I never finished the series, which there's part of me that wants to go back and finish reading them. But this main character reminded me of her, and I loved it. I loved it. I loved Amelia Peabody because of like Amelia Peabody and the character that she was and how she was a strong woman, and she would like go against like some of the patriarchal stuff and fight back with the men. That's how the main character in this book is, and I believe her name is Alexia Terabodi, something like that. Loved it. So great. Loved this book so much, and I was like, there's more. So yeah, that got a 5-star, highly recommend. And then Siege and Storm, which is the second book in the Bone and Shadow world and realm, I gave it 4 stars. I always feel like it's like sometimes sequels are really hard to like. Like, I still liked it a lot, but there was parts of it that I was like, seriously? So yeah, 4 stars for that one. I read A Sweet Mess. This was the other bakery romance book that I read. And this one is about a girl who moves to like this city that's close to like some sort of nature or something or other. And she ends up opening her own bakery. It does really well. A food critic ends up coming in. He's not there to like critique the food or anything. He's just like happened to walk in there because something like had happened to him. I think he got like a flat tire or something. So he isn't able to go to where he was actually supposed to go for the food critiquing. And his boss is like, hey, like, I get that you had a flat tire and everything, because I think it was his boss's car or something like that. But he was like, I still need you to write something. So what did you eat somewhere else there? Like, whatever. And so he's like, sure, fine. Writes a review on this girl's bakery. He ends up getting the wrong cake. And so he's like, oh, the first bite was like super great, but then I ended up with like this and da-da-da. So he gets like this weird cake because a child wanted it a certain way for her birthday party, and so it's like there's like gummy worms or something in it. So he kind of writes a bad review about it. That's kind of how they meet, or like hear about each other. But then they meet each other at the bar after that day. And it's like a one-night stand, and then that's it. And then she sees the review and she's like, oh my God, like he wrote such a terrible review about me. That's not how my stuff is, blah, blah, blah. He then comes back and realizes who the review was about. And so then he tries to right his wrong, and then life ensues. I loved the Parasol Proctorate so much, I had to finish the series. So then I read Changeless, which I gave 5 stars to. And then I read Blameless, which I gave 4 stars to. And then I read like a prequel book or whatever, which was called Meet Cute the Hedgehog Incident. It was like 2 seconds long. And I gave it like 2 stars because I was like, some of these are just whatever. And then I read Heartless, which I gave 3 stars to. And then I read The Curious Case of the Werewolf That Wasn't, which was another one of those like prequel whatever books I gave 2 stars to because I was like, okay, whatever. And then I read Timeless, which I gave 4 stars to. And that's the end of that specific series. But again, just like the Bone and Shadow, how there's another like series that's in the same world and has some of the same characters. I don't know if Bone and Shadow have some of the same characters. I know that they're in the same world. But this one has some of the same characters and it's in the same world. I have added them to my TBR list to read. I was like, we need to take a break from this world because I don't want to hate it. And we'll see how it is because it'll be a different main character. But yeah, I apparently loved the series so much I just had to read the whole thing. So that's done. Again, I highly recommend you could do what you'd like with that information. Oh, I listened to Euphoria. This one took me a little bit to get through. It's Euphoria by Lily King. I believe it's about, I don't know how to describe it. Oh, it's about 3 anthropologists. 2 of them are married, and then they meet and talk to another one when they're in New Guinea, in the jungle of New Guinea, and it just talks about what happens when they're all there together. It was okay. I wasn't like the hugest fan of it. I think I gave it 2 stars. It did take me a little bit to get through because it was an audiobook. I preferred that it was an audiobook because I wasn't the biggest fan of it, so I was like, thank God I didn't like waste my time like physically reading it, and if it was an audiobook then I can listen to it and not have to deal with sitting down and reading it. I could do other things. So yeah, I know this was also a pretty popular one. I feel like a lot of people liked it. It wasn't really my vibe, and I wasn't really like that big of a fan of like the actual story. And the last book that I finished in Q2 was Fly Away, which was the second book of from Firefly Lane, and I gave it 3 stars. It was interesting to know what happened after the events from Firefly Lane, but it was also very repetitive from Firefly Lane. So if you didn't read the first book, don't worry about it. You can just jump straight into this one. And then this book also, like pretty much the entirety of the book, I was crying. I don't know why. I don't know if I was like that invested in the book. I think I was partially that invested in the book, and I think it was also partially because I had read the first book. But also, I don't know, but I was just crying like the whole book. Like I couldn't go like one chapter without crying. So, I mean, if you want a book that's gonna make you cry, read this book, and maybe you'll cry as much as I did. It was very odd. I don't know. Again, interesting to see what happened after the fact. from the first book. A little repetitive, still intriguing enough that I read it. It's by Kristen Hanna. Everybody loves Kristen Hanna books. I think it was the ending that I was like, okay. I got to a point in the book and I was like, are we done yet? Like, I felt like it just dragged. Like, it was towards the end and I was like, okay, I kind of know and see where this is going to go. Like, I knew what was gonna happen, and what I thought was gonna happen pretty much happened. And I was like, why are we dragging this out for so long? Like, just do it already. Just be. Just let it be. So yeah, that part was annoying. Maybe that's part of the reason why I gave it 3 stars. Because I was like, okay, we get it. Maybe because I feel like it was a lazy book. Oh my gosh, my brain just probably made that connection. Yeah, it was lazy. Like, if you're gonna write a sequel, write a sequel. But don't be lazy about it. Like, repetitiveness, lazy. Dragging out the ending, lazy. Just end it. Just end it. You make so many books. Everybody loves you as an author. Just end it. Work on another book that somebody else is gonna love. Like, why drag this one out for so long? So yeah, that's how I feel about Fly Away. Thank you guys so much for watching. So glad you guys could join me on this day, whatever day you're watching. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the thumbs up and the notification bell so that you get notified when I post, which is every, what is it, class? Tuesday. Also follow me on Instagram at From the Peanut Gallery. I will have the, like, what is it called? Handle down below. And maybe I'll post my Goodreads. Did I do that in the last ones? We'll see. All right, I'm gonna go.